confidence back up, you know. So I still question marks over Havertz, but, you know, as I say, they're in cruise control today, Arsenal.
Yeah.
We've not mentioned Liverpool yet either.
Yeah.
You know, they're playing Spurs at 5:30, so, you know, Klopp and Postecoglou will be taking a bit of comfort out of City losing as well.
I'd imagine so, yeah. And just on the Arsenal performance there, we'll show a little bit of Odegaard after the break, but they have got the kind of quality that if you do what Bournemouth do today, which is essentially not much, you're going to get punished with Arsenal not even getting out of third gear, right?
Yeah, you're right. When you summed it up, they didn't get out of third gear, they didn't have to. It was a very professional performance, accomplished from Arsenal, but they were never really tested. And I think, you know, they look relegation material, Bournemouth, on that evidence now. I know it's really early in the season to say that, but there has to be a huge improvement in their performances.
It's supposed to be a high-pressing team. That's the reputation Areola brought. You're giving me a look, Shay, to say, what pressing?
Well, we might have a piece after the break on David Raya as well, but he, you know, we talked about how good he is with the ball at his feet. Had a cigar on, and there was one point towards the second half, I think it went into Jorginho, and there was no Bournemouth player in the same postcode as him. And he laid it off. He could have turned, you know, and we didn't see any press at all from Bournemouth today, and that's a concern. As Neil rightly says, you know, O'Neill has a brilliant result today for Wolves, and it's human nature for the fans and the board and everything. You know, have we made the right decision?
Yeah, but there was questions for you, Shay. You know, Gary O'Neill did a great job. I was one of them. He thought that no chance of staying up last year, and he did a mini miracle. And then he loses his job off the back of that. I don't understand that. Now, maybe they wanted Areola in. He has got to prove that he's got the components to be a coach in this division. He's not showing it at the minute.
Well, yeah, they've got some potentially easier fixtures coming up. Everton, Wolves, Burnley. They'll need points from those games, or else he's going to be under big pressure. As for Arsenal, we all know what's happening next weekend. It's Manchester City, and they're coming in off a defeat. We'll talk about all that after the break. Some big results around the Premier League today, not the least of which is Wolves beating Manchester City. It's 2 defeats on the spin now in all competitions for City. Not a good week for them. It was a good day for Arsenal. They were 2-0 up at half-time. We were hoping for some sort of competitiveness in the second half. It didn't really come. And Kai Havertz has his first goal as an Arsenal player. Yeah,
I mean, it's an easy decision, I think, for the referee. Christie dives in, gives a daft penalty away, to be honest, Owen, and you know, he's trying to claim it and say to the referee, look at it back, you know, but I think, as Breeny says in commentary, when he looks at it back himself, he's thinking, what's he flying in at there?
He got the ball eventually.
Eventually, there's a touch at the end, but he's took Odegaard out, and for me, it's not even a hard decision. You don't even need VAR to look at it. It's just poor defending, it's lazy defending. I don't know. He's just rash, and then of course we were sort of talking off air. Why is Havertz taking it? Because I imagine Odegaard's the penalty taker, but again, the reaction after this maybe explains a bit. You know, they're all around him. You know, suppose trying to build his confidence up, get him part of the group. You can see this is a good footage out there when they're all slapping him in the back of the head.
Yeah, it's interesting though, Neil. You reminded me of a quote from Arteta earlier in the season after the Palace game when Odegaard took the penalty that day, even though Saka would be their regular penalty taker. He was asked, who's your first choice taker? And what Arteta said was, I have no clue. It's about leadership of players. They have to make those decisions on the pitch. It's an unusual approach. Very
unusual, because normally, you know, it's decided before the game and you're going through your set plays, your free kicks, corners, and here's a designated penalty taker for the day. So I was quite surprised when Mikel came out with that, because he's very detailed in his preparation, obviously. But Odegaard stepped up today, did the damage, and then Havertz followed up with the second penalty quite comfortably.
We can have a look at the fourth goal, Ben White.
Yeah, I mean, it's a set play, and you know, Bournemouth have been very poor on set plays. Lovely flick ball in from Odegaard, and you know, Ben's just strong and he's unmarked. I know Bournemouth are zonal, but you've got to go and attack that early. Look, it's far too easy. You know, there's no real contact on him. There's no one trying to put him off his jump. And the ball's even floated in, Shea. There's no real whip on it, you know, and it's a great header from his point of view, but a free header.
No, you're fed up with Bournemouth today. Fed up with Sarr.
I am, honestly.
He actually made a few saves.
Yeah.
Could have lost by more.
Yeah, it could have been a lot more. The keeper made some good saves, especially in the second half, towards the second, as if they'd, like, not lost interest, but they just were miles off it today, Bournemouth, and the keeper made some good saves to keep the score down. But again, I would question the bigger picture. You know, you said 7 games now without a victory in the Premier League. Where do Bournemouth go from here? You mentioned Everton away next, which will be, is it too early to say, a 9-pointer and 8 games in? But it's getting to that stage already. They're down in trouble straight away.
You know what it's like, Shay? You get into a malaise, it's really hard to get out of it. You need to dig in, and sometimes you need to change the way you play one as well. But you know, that's not hard to change from. Because
what I was going to say, Lenny, to you about half-time, was let's see reactions, let's see what the manager does at half-time. Did you see anything in the second half? That's what I mean.
Nothing.
So the fans watching as well be going, what's going on here? What have they done?
I was looking forward to this high pressing that they talk about. I didn't see any of it. You know, and I know, like, Raya's really good on the ball, and sometimes you can't go and press when the goalkeeper's comfortable in possession. But there were times when the ball was going wide and they didn't even stop them on one side of the pitch. Arsenal were able to come through the midfield, and the distances between Bournemouth's attacking players in the midfield and defence was all over the place.
Yeah, Everton is going to be interesting, as you say. Wolves with the Gary O'Neill factor. That's going to be a fascinating match in 2 games' time. Burnley they've got as well after that, and eventually Man City. So,
but that's maybe the games that you really. I mean, they played. Manchester. Have they played Man United? They played Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
They
played Chelsea.
They played Chelsea. Yeah. So, they've got to judge themselves against Burnley, the Evertons of this world. But on that showing, they've got no chance of one.
Martin Odegaard was involved in the 2 goals we've seen there, and involved in the 2 goals in the first half as well. So a nice day out for him.
I thought he had a great game. He showed all. This is a great ball in. The weight of the cross is perfect for Jesus to hit it back across goal. I just thought, his positional play, his awareness. That's just a beautiful way to pass and disguise on the pass as well. I just thought, today he showed his class. He's been a wonderful player for the last sort of season and a half now for Arsenal, and. Yeah, I mean, I know he's a child prodigy when he was at Real Madrid, but he's found a real home here, and he's showing all his talent again. Just look at his close control and brilliant awareness. So it was a really good all-round performance. Enjoyed watching him play today.
Impressed?
Yeah, I think he just signed a new contract there last week as well, so he's there for the next good few years, and he's the captain of the football club. And sometimes you say Arsenal lack leaders, but I think with him, his performances, he leads with his performances as well.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We went big on the David Raya versus Aaron Ramsdale dynamic before the match. So what did you think about Raya brought to the table today?
Well, what he does do, and I'm not no slight on Ramsdale, he's very calm. That's a brilliant pass. So what he does, he attracts the opposition to go and press him. You mentioned there before, this is goalkeeping. He holds this really well because one of them awkward ones. But he's very positive coming for crosses. He does everything. He ticks every single box. But I think this is a brilliant pass out to the right back as well. But what he does do, this is what he does. Look where he's positioning here now, and he's really high up in the pitch. So he's literally playing. You're like 11 outfield players now when Raya's like this. He's so high up, he's so controlled. And as Lenny's rightly says, now if Bournemouth go to press him, he's waiting for someone to jump and then create space somewhere else, and Arsenal are out. He's just waiting for the striker to go and press him there.
So he does make a difference. I can see why they've gone for him.
Yeah.
That is different to Ramsdale, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Ramsdale, I don't think is bad with the ball at his feet as well. But again, I think it's much of a muchness. I think if the players are ready to receive the ball, Ray's very good at it, and I think Ramsdale as well. But what I'm saying is he's very just calm. I think that spreads throughout the team as well on the ball. Because
you weren't sure about this. Neither of you were big fans of what they've done with the goalkeeping situation here, but you must have liked what you saw from Raya there. Under not a huge amount of pressure.
No, it wasn't under a huge amount of pressure. Everything he did today, he did well with the, touch of professionalism, class. Everything was clean. But he never really got tested. Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think there's much in it between the goalkeepers in terms of even when the ball's at the feet. He's done well for England recently, Ramsdale. So it's going to be interesting to watch over the season when how it pans out.
There's only one slightly negative point here for Arsenal today that I can see, and that is Bukayo Saka, who was in the wars a bit. He plays every game for them. They put him out there today. He had a foot injury last week. He got a couple of whacks today and eventually went off with a big couple of games ahead this week.
And it didn't look good, towards the end. I mean, he gets a bit of a dead leg here, but, that's one of those that you can run off. This is the one
that seems to have injured him,
the follow through from Kirkes, and it catches him on it looks like the ankle. And that can be quite sore, it just clips him. And then there was a spell where he's just hobbling around, and at 3-0, they took off Zinchenko and Nketiah, when really probably should have got Saka off and give him a breather, when already he's carrying an injury going into the game.
Strange one.
Yeah, well, you mentioned 87 games on the bounce. If you're 3-0 up away from home and you've got big games coming up this week, especially next week, Man City, coming to the Emirates, you'd wrap him up in cotton wool. He's one of their main players, so... Arteta will be sort of praying over the next couple of days. It's not serious.
We'll take a quick break now. A couple of other results to talk about after these. And after the result against Newcastle during the week in the Carabao Cup, you'd have to say it's a bad few days for Man City.
Well, Pep's interview after the game during the week, I mean, me and Lenny were both at the game, was a bit...
Tetchy, wasn't it?
Tetchy, is that the word?
Apparently he was unhappy that they couldn't get a flight home and had to sit in the bus for 3 hours.
He was unhappy about a lot of things after the League Cup midweek, so I don't know what state of mind he's going to be in this evening, but that's a real shock. I mentioned Gary O'Neill again, a brilliant result for him, of course, at Wolves, but for Man City and the treble winners, that's a big surprise for everyone.
You mentioned off air there that they haven't conceded 2 goals for an awful long time in a game, let alone lost a match by 2-1.
Yeah, especially when you consider the opposition, but they've set such a high bar on for a long time. Something's got to give now and again. I don't think it's anything to panic about. However, you know, he'll be bitterly disappointed if they lost back-to-back games, and he'll want to rectify that as soon as possible.
Yeah, he sort of uses these oftentimes as a launch pad. We'll wait to see what he has to say afterwards, and light a fire under the players, all those kind of things. Roy Hodgson has a great record at Crystal Palace and at Old Trafford for Crystal Palace, and it continued again today. United beaten 1-0. Like we did the Brighton game there a couple of weeks ago, and they were badly beaten that day. Things are looking a bit ropey here for Ten Hag. And
we were talking about it. You know, I thought he'd corrected a lot of things last year after the Ranić debacle, but it looks like they've gone back to square one again. You know, off-field stories, underperforming players, terrible, you know, really poor results. I watched the game midweek, you know, the League Cup game, where there was a few changes, man. They were very, very comfortable. But, you know, they've gone out to them when it really matters and lost another big game. So I don't know where to go from here, Owen. I mean, they've spent a lot of money again in the transfer window.
That's it, yeah.
Whether it's the right players in the right positions that were needed, we don't know. But, you know, it's a very disappointing result.
He has he has various players unavailable for a lot of different reasons, Shay. But at the same time, it's a big club. You have to deal with these sort of little crises and get results.
It's a big club, and Lenny says as well. I think they spent something like £400 million now in Ten Hag, and I think that's, if you're the board or even the owners, I know they get a bit of stick up there as well. But you're going to start looking at the manager and questioning now: has he signed the right players, as you mentioned? Have we got the right people in the right positions? But he'll be looking over his shoulder as well. I'm sure they're sitting 10th in the Premier League. Like that's not good enough for Man United.
How often do we talk about Man United?
Oh yeah.
You know, every year it's the same sort of story since, obviously, probably since Sir Alex
But
left.
except for last year, which, as you're saying,
Yeah,
you know, and maybe Solskjaer had one decent season
Well,
as well.
I came up against them in the Europa League with Amoni, and I thought the attitude, they'd got beat 6-3 by Man City.
Yeah.
And I thought they'd come and they'd sulk, but they didn't. Their attitude was brilliant, and then they go in the League Cup, you know, Champions League, and I'm thinking, oh, this guy's really sorting it out, the attitude and everything, but they've gone backwards again, Owen.
I keep saying that the City result today is good news for Arsenal, and it obviously is, but it's really good news for Liverpool as well, because both of you reckon Liverpool are actually going to be the main challengers this season. They've got this game against Spurs coming up in a few minutes. You've been looking at the teams here, Shay. I'm really looking forward to this one. No idea how it's going to go.
Yeah, I think it's probably the fixture of the weekend. It's a huge game, of course. Both managers flying. I mean, Ange Postecoglou, the job he's done since leaving Celtic, you know, some Tottenham fans were questioning that, but he's proven to a lot of people, even only in the first 6 weeks or whatever, that he's a top manager. And of course, I think Klopp, the way Liverpool finished last season, that's why I sort of pipped them to go really close this year for the Premier League. So that's a really good game. I think it's going to be an exciting game this evening.
Any idea how that's going to go?
Both teams will score, you know, but Spurs have made a great. I thought they were really impressive again, Shea. You know, last week against Arsenal, they went a goal down twice, and you know, in the big derby, and they handled the occasion really well. Liverpool on the counter attack, you know, they're deadly. So Ange will go for it. Whether Klopp counter attacks, it's going to be a fascinating game to watch.
Should be good. Before we go, what about Arsenal? Last word on them. Obviously, a big week ahead. They've got Lens away on Tuesday night. Then they've got City. How do you think realistically they're going to fare against Man City? Because in one way you could spin it, and City are going to have a backlash now.
It's the worst result that Arsenal probably could have wanted. And Lens away won't be easy either. So, you know, if they can get a positive result in France and then take something from the Emirates, then brilliant.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon they can take something from the Emirates next week?
Well, they'll be buoyed by the last two results. Man City obviously losing to Newcastle, and of course today to Wolves. So that'll give not just, I think, Arsenal, but the whole Premier League. They know they are beatable. So, but again, champions always bounce back. So it'll be a great game next week.
If I was to push you now, then I know it's very early in the season, but where do you think Arsenal are going to finish? Are they
not at the top,
but they should be fine for top four?
Yeah, I think they'll be top four. Yeah, I think that won't
doubt.
be in question. But I do still think, we mentioned at the top of the show about they're still, I know they scored 4 goals, probably not the best time to drop it in, but I still feel that they're missing an out-and-out striker who can get 20, 25